Today's meeting involving 13 hunter councils in Muswellbrook revealed one thing: local government is none too pleased with the federal government. Topping their list of grievances is a federal government decision to trim $150 million from regional development. Councillors fear country towns will suffer the most, with vital government services to disappear.
We're concerned about the impact of services, the cutback in Medicare offices, childcare funding and ongoing recurrent funding.
Mr Wood says country areas like the Hunter Valley are least able to cope with the government cuts to regional development, and he's labelled the government as heartless.
They are not given a mandate to slash and burn. They're not given a mandate to destroy local economies and to put the boot into people.
Hunter Valley Council leaders have decided to take their concerns straight to Canberra. They'll march on Parliament House with their New South Wales counterparts next week. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Work to build a bypass around Raymond Terrace is well and truly underway. But this is for a single carriageway, a $48 million state government job. Today, the federal government chipped in an additional $5 million to widen the road to dual carriageway. The former local federal member Bob Horne had made a similar commitment in the lead up to the election.
The Labor Party promised it, we've delivered it.
An EIS is to investigate how the additional 2 lanes could affect the local koala population. If it goes ahead, the road should be completed within the next 2 years.
What it will mean is a downturn for the panel beating industry in Raymond Terrace, because this road means less accidents.
What started out as a simple hazard reduction backburn today turned into a raging fire. Fire officers near Western were stunned by the turnaround, strong winds and tinder-dry conditions catching them out.
Well, it is the middle of winter and it's August, and I don't like the look of what summer's going to bring us.
There have been some bad fires across Port Stephens and Lake Macquarie. Local fire control officers are warning anyone planning to backburn to call in for professional advice.
People should contact the local fire brigade or the bushfire control centres in each local government area and seek advice on whether it's appropriate to burn off.
And while it is still winter, the experts say now is the time to plan for fire prevention around the home. It's all just basically common sense.
To keep the fuel low around the house itself, mow lawns, rake up leaves, prune trees that are overhanging the house, clean gutters.
Peter Ryan, NBN News. The TWA plane crash off New York took 230 lives and has mystified authorities. Part of the investigation involved divers going down to 50 metres searching for clues. The cold, deep water takes its toll, and this specialist recompression chamber is being used to protect their lives.
The divers are having problems with the bends, but they're using the chambers. They're actually coming out of the water, and they're not doing their decompression stops in the water, they're actually doing their decompression stops inside the chamber.
It's called a transportable recompression chamber, the brainchild of Warners Bay company Cowan Manufacturing. Work started on the idea 9 years ago. 3 years ago, the US Navy took on a contract. Last night, the company won 3 awards at the Australian Design Awards, taking out the overall Design of the Year. The recompression chamber's success has stunned its makers.
It's a little bit hard to believe, like 3 or 4 years ago, things were pretty tough, but today it's just wonderful. It just keeps getting better.
To date, the chamber has generated $20 million in sales. Work is well underway for a new design to hit the marketplace next month. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Demand for the Kingston apartments opposite Newcastle Beach has exceeded expectations. All units were snapped up off the plan before the end of construction last Christmas, except one. Number 39 is empty, awaiting someone prepared to part with $1.6 million for the privilege. The penthouse boasts 360-degree views down the coast and north to Nelson Bay. Inside, it's wall-to-wall luxury, 4 bedrooms and bathrooms, imported Italian marble, and topping it all off, solid gold taps.
It's rare that this one has come available, and once it's sold, you tend to find with the Newcastle, when you get these sort of one-off things, that they seem to get into the older family homes, and we never get them back on the market again.
Shalimar House on the Hill is the most expensive residential sale in Newcastle to date, fetching $1.3 million. When sold, the penthouse is expected to exceed this by around $0.3 million.
When this is sold, it'll sell for more than 1.3, and that'll be a new record for this penthouse or for any real estate ever sold in Newcastle on the residential side of things.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
For a side struggling with only 1 win in 9 matches, it's unwelcome news. Some of the Knights' key players are in doubt for the weekend's home clash with the Roosters, but the team is remaining optimistic.
A couple of players down with a virus, but there's plenty going around at the moment. But I'm hoping that the players will be right for Sunday.
Monday night's loss to Parramatta has been hard to handle. The Knights slipped to 11th place in the league and almost out of calculations for the finals.
It's been a difficult week, bringing them around. They got their heads down on Monday, but so that was only to be expected after such a big effort and no real reward at the end of it.
But to their credit, the Knights are determined to bounce back and spoil the Roosters' top 2 finish.
We've trained well last night and the enthusiasm's there, so it's going to be a real good contest on Sunday. The Roosters are obviously in good form, but I think that we're good enough to take them.
With Brad Godden succumbing to his old shoulder injury, Brett Grogan moves to the centres while young Matthew Gidley runs on as wing. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The Battle of Long Tan has retreated a further year back into history, but the Vietnam vets say the passage of time is no healer. Many remain crippled with psychological and physical scars.
Most of them are worse affected now than what they were before.
Because they cannot forget, they must remember the horror, and they say they need others to remember too. It was the lack of recognition in the early years of their return that kept the psychological wounds open.
A person said, I haven't seen you for 12 months. I said, I've been to Vietnam. He said, what are you doing tomorrow? So there was almost a non-recognition of what you'd done.
The annual Remembrance Day, held in Newcastle Civic Park, honours the 19 local men who fell in Vietnam and is a sign of respect for every veteran sacrifice.
I think it's more important now than ever so that we can get all the boys back together again.
Wreaths were laid at the Vietnam Memorial and the Australian flag lowered to half-mast. Fire crews were called to the St John's Primary School on Victoria Street, Maitland at about 12:30 this afternoon when smoke was seen billowing from a storeroom. Firefighters quickly extinguished the blaze before extensive damage was done to the building. They believe the room was torched by vandals.
It appears beyond doubt that's deliberately lit. It's, the lock's broken into the room and I can't see any other reason for the fire.
Sports gear stored in the building was destroyed, but there was no structural damage. That fire wasn't the only attack. Rutherford High School was also targeted over the weekend.
We also had a suspicious fire at Rutherford High School last night where fire was lit in more than one location. Obviously deliberately lit there too.
The skid marks on Morpeth Road, East Maitland, show this V8 Ford Falcon was on the wrong side of the road before it smashed through the fence of one house and into the veranda of the next.
There's a bedroom right there, and if the pole hadn't have been there, they just would have went straight through and killed all the kids.
Police say the vehicle was stolen from outside a home at Woodbury earlier in the evening. The joyride came to a dangerous end at about 1:15, amazingly without tragedy. Unhurt, neighbours say the driver and passenger made a run for it.
They tried to reverse the car and it wouldn't reverse, so then they just jumped out of the car and took off up there.
Soon after, police apprehended two men on a nearby street. A few hours later, another family was rudely awakened in Cardiff when a 1-tonne work truck slammed into their home on Reservoir Road.
Probably about 2 feet off where the car finished up, my head would have been, I'd say.
The truck wrecked a path of destruction through 3 front yards before it was stopped, flattening 2 trees along the way.
Yeah, there's no sign of any braking, so he's careered through a lot of trees before he got to the house, and thank God the trees was there.
The driver, a 25-year-old man, has been charged with drink driving. Police say his blood alcohol level was more than 3 times the legal limit. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
Guiding a fully laden truck rig through traffic is not a good place to learn the complexities of a 16-speed gearbox or the correct use of an exhaust brake. An alternative is to put in the hours mastering these motor skills on a simulator so that when a driver does tackle a real situation, the focus can be on the unpredictable nature of other traffic without worrying about things like finding the next gear. With this in mind, the RTA, the Army and large fleet companies are all looking at this simulator, imported by the Newcastle-based business group DNS. Manufactured by Alltech, a spin-off from South Africa's defence industry, the computerised simulator can also be used by fleet owners to make regular driver assessments, spitting out a report that picks up even a failure to use mirrors, poor gear changes or forgetting such things as checking brake pressure.
It's not going to take away traditional training, but what it's going to do is it's tools to employ better driving standards and to improve training generally speaking.
At $195,000, the simulator is not cheap, but its promoters say it has the potential to pay for itself by reducing both accidents and fleet maintenance costs. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
The $11.5 million public float comes after 18 months extensive planning. The broker, Bridges Financial Services, says any prospective shareholders will be investing in an already successful business and can expect good returns.
There's about some 18 months worth of figures and research and checking back again before we'd recommend this to our client base. But with a yield of over 10% each year for the first 2 years, we know that's locked away, we're very, very comfortable in recommending it.
The aim of the float, which covers both the Hunter's award-winning Pepper's Guest House and the convent just down the road, is designed to allow the hotel group to further expand tourism development in the area.
Peppers have been around for nearly 13 years, and we really wanted to expand and take advantage of the increasing tourism market, and we thought the best way to do that was to invite the shareholders in to invest and to allow us to expand and buy more hotels.
It's hoped to expand the Peppers Trust to $100 million over the next 5 years, with short-term plans to acquire a new hotel in the Hunter region, plus one in Sydney. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
Natalie Ward returned home from the Olympics in the early hours of this morning, still overwhelmed at the Atlanta experience.
It was great. It's sort of overwhelming at the moment. I don't know what to think, but it was a great feeling at the time when we got presented the medals.
At only 20, Natalie was the youngest member of the Australian softball team. Today, her first chance to sit back and reflect. The Aussies won bronze at the Games. What a standout with bat and ball. No one could be prouder than her parents.
Oh, it was tremendous. We are certainly a proud parent. There's no doubt about that. It's the first medal I've ever seen of any colour. And it was great to sort of have Natalie bring it home.
For now, it's a well-deserved break and a chance to catch up on a newfound fame. From across Australia, the Olympian received hundreds of letters during the Games. Most offered support, while others promised love. With the international commitments over for a while, the 20-year-old will go back to a former club, the Castle Lakers. With softball yet to be given the green light for Sydney 2000, there are plenty of Olympic memories, the two lasting ones, the medal and that party.
Partying was great. I had a lot of fun.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News. After a terrible run of losses in the Optus Cup, the Knights finally scored the competition points yesterday. The winning drought over, the finals hopes alive.
The team's good enough, and I think yesterday would have been a great confidence booster for us.
Reilly's focus may now be on the Reds game this weekend, but in the back of his mind is the final round clash against the Sharks.
But I thought that we'd be playing Cronulla at the back end of this season. And the result would be to get in the top four, not to sustain a top 8 place.
It was a great day out for Newcastle. The reserves also scored a convincing victory. The second team scored its 14th win of the season, and coach Peter Sharp couldn't be happier.
Yeah, we're getting it back together now, so I think we'll be a definite threat come the end of the year.
The reserves win came at a cost.
We lost Scott Asmus with a leg injury and Jason Marshall with a leg injury. They won't play again this year. Stephen Crow's got a shoulder injury, so we'll have a new front row this week.
He's the king of B-grade horror movies, the world's most celebrated independent low-budget filmmaker. With titles such as Attack of the Crab Monsters, Roger Corman has attracted a cult-like following. For aspiring filmmakers, he's proof that successful movies can be made with small budgets. The theme of the Open City Film Festival and Symposium opening in Newcastle next month.
Films made for under $1 million is our ceiling for the festival. Films can be made for a very small amount of money. You do not need millions of dollars.
For 3 days, the Lyrique and Regal cinemas will showcase a range of short films, Australian movies and a Roger Corman retrospective. But for many, the highlight will be a seminar with a Hollywood producer himself, explaining how to survive as a filmmaker. Organisers say the festival will show audiences that good movies don't need big budgets. The conference was for all emergency service providers, such as the police and ambulance, as well as welfare groups like the Salvation Army and St Vincent de Paul. Organised by the Red Cross, the Disaster Services Seminar was an opportunity for the 80 people to share ideas, praise, even criticism. While disaster seminars have been run in the past, the Red Cross says this is the first attempt to include all emergency services.
We thought it was timely to bring government and non-government agencies together to share some of the wisdom and to look at the common problems that affect the workers.
For many of the conference delegates, it was also a chance to fine-tune communication skills.
Definitely. Communications are the first thing that fail in a disaster. If we can get be a little bit proactive with our communications, with our liaison, then we have a far better chance of succeeding.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Five years ago, a wide-eyed Ben Melmoth left Newcastle as a 16-year-old to conquer the world of American college basketball. Since returning home in July this year, the 211-centimetre power forward has been holding court with the Newcastle Hunters. Melmoth has decided not to return to the US, and the chase is now on to sign him for the NBL. The former Katara High student is more than keen to stay on home soil.
Well, Newcastle's the best place to live on earth, I think, personally. That's a big reason why I'm staying here. It's just to be around here, and but to play for the Falcons is big, but playing also in Newcastle is very big.
The feeling is mutual with Falcons officials who want Ben to represent his hometown. Melmoth believes his experience in the States is a definite asset.
I think playing in two different countries is always a good advantage. Playing, see how it's like in America. They play a different type of basketball there than they do in Australia, and I've been able to mix them both in and it's helped me to an advantage anyway. Yeah.
The final touches are being put to an agreement. Falcons fans may see him line up against South East Melbourne Magic at home on Saturday night.
For those undergoing a day's chemotherapy treatment at Gosford Hospital, the funding boost could not have come at a better time. With increasing demand for cancer treatment services on the Central Coast, conditions have become cramped. Part of the $400,000 donated to the Area Health Service will go towards building a larger room, which will also be suitable for treating children.
So we're looking forward to providing an environment where people can have privacy and where they can have greater comfort while receiving this important treatment.
For the patients upstairs, who can face up to a 3-month stay in hospital, the service plans to purchase more video recorders, bar fridges and comfortable chairs. People at the southern end of the Central Coast will also benefit from the funding boost. Around $200,000 will go towards constructing a daycare facility for palliative care near Woy Woy Hospital. The Health Service says community funding plays an important role in upgrading health facilities, with this donation from the Cobalt Machine Palliative Care Fund and Cancer Services helping to make the process much faster.
Improving facilities in a growing health area is an enormous demand on funds from the Area Health Service and from the government, and to be able to have donations such as this that enable us to bring things forward a number of years is just fantastic.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
The Public Service Union members held meetings around the country this morning. They voted for a broad-based industrial campaign across all public sector unions, beginning with joint membership meetings in September. An ongoing campaign to gain Senate support was also endorsed, the workers then striking for the rest of the day to highlight their anger over the public sector budget cuts. Meanwhile, industrial unrest continued at the Woolworths bulk warehouse in Cardiff near Newcastle. Workers at the plant were stood down for 48 hours yesterday following their decision to support a union delegate sacked for calling the manager a wimp during work practice negotiations. Today they continued their vigil outside the plant while union delegates met with management in a bid to reach new workplace agreements. The dispute continues. MSE Ossian, NBN News.
Blockbusters such as the upcoming smash hit Independence Day and other huge budget flicks are showing the drawing power of the movies can't be underestimated. But the resurgence of cinema is relatively new. It wasn't long ago that video killed both the radio star and the big screen idol. Now the most reliable indicator, investors parting with hard-earned dollars, shows the silver screen is again glowing gold.
Ever since cinema was conceived, had its lows and then up it came again. So it's up there now and I think it's going to stay there forever.
Margaret and Theo Goomis, owners of the Art House, Larique and Kensington Theatres in Newcastle, want to build a bigger and better third cinema complex. The Twin Theatre, planned for the old Coles Fossies building on Wolfe Street, is just a stone's throw from the rival Greater Union Cinema. But they say the town can cope with both and more.
I mean, you think of years ago, the city had many, many more cinemas than what we have at the moment.
Also seeking council approval, the NIB Health Fund, with plans for a $30 million extension to triple the capacity of its private hospital at Rankin Park near the John Hunter Hospital. Built just 2 years ago, the 38-bed facility has been inundated with demand. NIB hopes to offer another 80 beds. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. First, one of the biggest jazz festivals in the state has people in Newcastle toe-tapping, lap-slapping and engaging in some serious blissing out. The annual 3-day event has attracted thousands to the city. Meanwhile, the adrenaline was pumping in Sydney last night when 3,000 students from throughout New South Wales and the ACT performed in the Rocker Stedford Challenge Grand Final. 26 high schools competed for a range of awards, with the top honour going to Lake Macquarie's Toronto High School. Toronto performed The Toll of Coal about days gone by in the mining community of Stockton near Newcastle.
The top 8 paid $2.80 and $1.50, the places $2.90 and $2, the Quinella $18.90 and the trifecta $155.10. Race 7 was the Toy Show Quality Handicap over 1,400 metres. Some big dividends, $11.30 and $3.90, $12.70 and $4.60. The trifecta paying upwards of $13,000. At Sandown, the JJ Liston Stakes was the feature event. $17.80 and $4.10, the places $3.10 and $1.60, the Quinella almost $80 and the trifecta $707.30.